Welcome, everyone, and thank you for your interest in Serial City Science. My name is Sandy Irwin, and I'm the Professional Learning Director here at Serial City Science. I'd like to introduce our special guests today from Boone County, Stevens Elementary School teachers Barbara Stegman and Missy Weatherly. And Dr. Kim Zeiler-Waters, although she's not here, is also a very important part of this pilot study that we've recently done with these teachers. She is executive director at PIMSERS, or the Partnership Institute for Math and Science Education Reform. Barbara and Missy will be sharing their Serial City Science experience with you today. So a bit about a pilot. So this past year, teachers, including Missy and Barbara, in Boone County, Madison, and Letcher counties were invited to participate in a pilot of Serial City Science grade level units. The goal of this pilot was to expose teachers to comprehensive science units in order to round out their existing curriculum to help them meet the NGSS performance expectations, to also give teachers and Serial City Science an understanding of how to integrate Serial City Science units into existing programs. The other goal was to collect student data, teacher data, and professional learning experience to inform a broader implementation of Serial City Science units in Kentucky and other states that are using NGSS-based standards. During the pilot, teachers participated in a one-day KIT training, followed by 2 to 3 study group sessions to reflect on videos of them teaching their lessons and student work samples. So what we have is everything you need to implement the NGSS. We have a comprehensive and complete program offering curriculum, materials, as well as professional learning. So for our teacher guide, that incorporates the teacher materials part of the curriculum. As you can see, when you open up the front of the binder on the left side, there is a student journal answer key. So the students get their version of the student journal, and this is your answer key version. Then over on the right-hand side are the different tabs, which give you the teacher guide, which includes the background information, standards, the unit at a glance, activities, and the appendix. And the other tabs, as you can see, include the student journal black line master, assessments, handouts, and technology integrations where those are available. The teacher guide also includes access to the online component, which is a resource for the teachers to access PowerPoints for every single lesson, Jamboards, and an electronic version of the student journal. Students have their own print and bound student journals. The sample you can see on the right. What's neat is in the teacher guide itself, there are prompts that are embedded in the teacher guide so that you know when to have your students look in the student journal and work out of the student journal. Now our kits come in these sturdy gray tubs, and they're complete with the essential materials that you need for carrying out lessons for up to 32 students. There are 3 units per grade level. Each unit covers it takes about 12 weeks to go through each of these units. They're structured around the NGSS topic bundles, with each unit covering one of the 3 domains, the domains being Earth, Life, and Physical. And the units include integrations of engineering, technology, math, as well as ELA. A bit about our company. So you may not have heard of us. Serial City. Well, it's because we're from Battle Creek, the Serial City part. People either know or don't know, but it is called the Serial City capital because we have Kellogg and Post here. Also, we are a 501c3 nonprofit organization owned and operated by Battle Creek Public Schools and the Battle Creek Area Math and Science Center. We've actually been a provider of K-8 science curriculum materials and professional learning for districts across the state of Michigan since 1996. And we're currently servicing over 480 districts in Michigan, Illinois, Indiana, Ohio, Maryland, Texas, and Delaware. All right, so a little more about our background. We're recognized by STEMWorks at West Ed as an accomplished STEM program that is most likely to yield the best return on public investment. Several things that are going on with studies and whatnot. We have a 3-year efficacy study of our program being done by an independent evaluator, iEval. We have just finished a pilot study with 4th and 5th grade teachers in Kentucky with our units, with specific units, in collaboration with PIMSR, of course. And finally, Ed Reports is currently reviewing our K-5 program. So tune in for that report to come out sometime towards the end of this year. So let's get to what sets us apart. Let's talk about that. Well, for one, we're phenomenon-based. So an anchoring phenomenon such as the Pacific garbage patch or how we see in light and dark drives student learning throughout a unit as we work to figure out and make sense of what we've experienced. So an observable event introduces students as a common experience at the beginning of a lesson sequence to drive student learning. Students make personal connections to the phenomenon by drawing on their own experiences. So phenomenon-driven units actually kind of play out like this in our units. You start with a phenomenon. Here we have one from the 5th grade Earth Science unit with the convection current. So students see this and it prompts ideas and questions. And as a result, it gives them a lot to think about and create a model of where they can draw an explanation, their initial explanation of what's going on. In the process, they come up with new questions, and then that prompts new investigations. So then in another day, another lesson, you might be doing a different investigation to explain these new questions. So as the students are going along from lesson to lesson, they start building explanations to their phenomenon. And as they do that, each time with new learning, they then can revisit their model and build on it. So it's a very dynamic program. So something else that sets us apart is that we're 3-dimensional. So the units and lessons integrate all 3 dimensions, the science and engineering practices, the cross-cutting concepts, and the disciplinary core ideas. And so over here on the right is a student example of an activity where it's 3-dimensional because the student is developing a model, right? Using an example, you can kind of see the model they have on the bottom there, where they're describing ways in which the geosphere, biosphere, hydrosphere, and atmosphere interact. And so that involves the systems thinking with all the different Earth spheres. And it also involves the actual interactions, which is a part of that big science idea. Again, setting us apart, it's student-centered. Students are doing the science, not just learning about what scientists did in the years past. Students are doing the talking, arriving at consensus understandings. Student questions and ideas about phenomenon are incorporated into the unit lessons. The student-student discussions during the science talks allow them to share ideas, establish science understandings, and build consensus models. And there are group engineering challenges and student-designed investigations. All right, I've got a prompt here for Missy. Can you give us a glimpse of what Science Talk looks like in your classroom and how it impacted student learning?
So we did we talked about the Pacific garbage patch, and we were trying to figure out um, the atmosphere and how things move and flow. And one of our discussions was about what's in the atmosphere, and we discussed how much we knew oxygen was in there because we breathe that. So they were able to come up with that, and they knew carbon dioxide because that's what plants do, because we had another unit on food webs. And so they were using their background knowledge, and that just kind of generated that discussion of, well, how much is in each. And we there was a little a diagram that you could look and see, okay, so we figured out there was 21% of oxygen in the atmosphere. What happens if we increase that, or what happens if we decrease that? And we had such a good discussion about what would happen with those things before we looked at the PBS. I can't, what is the name? I can't think of the name. The diagram basically. And that, and they did so well with communicating and using those prompts with agreeing and disagreeing, and even had some really good healthy arguments as far as not agreeing with each other. And then once we looked at the diagram, they were really amazed at what does happen, like, because they really thought that it wouldn't be that big of a deal if there was more, if the oxygen level increased. And to find out that it would affect us in a negative way, just like decreasing. And they were able to talk through that. They were able to use those communicating in scientific ways, prompts, to really come to a good conclusion and make that claim as to what happens with the levels of oxygen. And then we started talking about carbon dioxide too, which they were convinced that there was a lot more carbon dioxide in the atmosphere than there actually is. And then that prompted a whole nother discussion about, is it because we're rainforest came into it, and so it just kind of builds on all of those, them bringing things up and us discovering together, and more student led of trying to answer those questions and different things that come up throughout those discussions.
Thanks, Missy. So another thing that sets us apart is the coherent storyline. So students actually have a way to see how the story is unfolding, and they're motivated. It's kind of like a mystery. You solve one part of the puzzle, but you have these other questions that you want answered. So then you figure that one out. And now that kind of adds to, you're just figured out another part of the puzzle. So it really keeps them motivated from lesson to lesson. And this is actually our what we think charts. It's a 5-column chart where you actually have students, as they come up with ideas, you put that on that first chart on the left. The next one is as they come up with questions. It's like a driving question board. And what happens is you have the students use these ideas and questions throughout the unit. They drive where the unit goes next. All right, let's see if we can answer some of your questions. Oh, maybe we can do an activity that involves helping you out with that question. So then we identify, what did we do? And then as we go along, we're figuring things out. We can say, oh, let's move some of your questions we're figuring out over to the what we figured out board. And finally, in the last chart, how does this connect with the phenomenon? So that being the focal point, tying things together as you go is very helpful for the students. So I want to take a moment once again to ask Missy or Barbara, can you talk about the activities, how the simplicity of the activities might have helped to spawn, great conversations, might have gotten them to ask questions that led to investigations?
So for me, I teach fourth grade, and we were looking at structures and functions. And you guys provided like, I don't remember if it's called a mystery box or what, but it's a box with a tube inside, and you can't see in it. But before class started, I put a small toy in it at the end. Um, and students were going crazy. They were like, before I even introduced the box, there was the phenomena at the beginning of the lesson, and then the kids were generating ideas for what can we see, why can't we see, and coming up with questions. And we have a driving question board. And then I pulled out these boxes, and it almost like split my class in half. Half of them said they swore up and down they knew what was in that box, and the other half was like, I can't see anything. And so we went on with all of that, and they were just like coming up with different reasons why they could, different reasons why they couldn't. It was generating more questions. And as the activity went on, so you start off with it's completely closed, and the kids write what they think and sketch what they think they see. Well, they couldn't see anything, although some of them swore it. And it's amazing what they thought was in the box. And then you open it up a little bit, and they can start to see an outline. So then we went back and we were growing our thinking, and it's okay if we're wrong. We change our thinking as we grow. And the kids were just amazed at how much just a little bit of light each time we opened it more and more. And I mean, they were into it whole hog. I mean, they were like asking, well, can we do it again? Can you put different things in the box? We want to try and see. And then they were saying, well, it's the light on the outside, because we had classroom lights. And they're like, well, that messed it up. And I'm like, okay, we turn the lights off. So actually the next day we tried it again, and it was like the first time. They had questions, they were building on information, and it was just an amazing conversation that these kids were having. Missy and I use a lot of the open SciEd and the communicating in scientific ways. So we were able to incorporate that beautifully, and the discussions were not what I expected. They were very right on. There was very few kids that got off on other tangents. They were very focused on the learning.
Interesting. And I can't remember if it was Barbara or Missy. Did you have instances where students were excited to go home and share what they learned and created during science lessons?
I know with us, with the very beginning of the first phenomena, with introducing the Pacific garbage patch, and how no matter what, even though we're in Kentucky and we're not close to an ocean, our plastic can end up in that garbage patch. And the first thing that we did was collected garbage on the playground and made a graph and graphed all of that. They went home and collected garbage from their house, tried to convince their parents to not use as much plastic. There was just so many, all kinds of things going on where they were trying to convince, to be better recyclers and reusing and all those different things. So yeah, I was surprised that when kids started bringing like reusable sandwich bags or snack bags, and all those different things. So that really hit home with them. And everywhere we went, they were picking up garbage. And like, we had field day, and my kids, the fifth graders, instead of playing kickball, they were picking up garbage. So it was very, very much hit home with them to realize that they didn't want that to end up in the in the ocean.
I think you've started something.
I think you started it, so
You've started something in Kentucky for sure.
oh yeah, for
With,
sure. I
with
don't
the
know.
new
I haven't heard from middle school. I don't know if they're still picking up garbage over there too, but probably because they were very passionate about it.
Mm.
Once we saw that the map and we saw the different the pictures, the diagrams of that, and then we looked at some of the different articles and how different ways people were trying to figure it out. There was one man from in Europe somewhere, and we read an article about him trying to clean up the ocean, and then someone brought up that I guess they went and looked him up at home on the internet or something, and that he had redeveloped the machine of the article, because the article was several years old, that we used, and it was even better. So the fact that they were continuing this, and it was just amazing that they took that time and became very passionate about it.
That it was something they internalized for
Yes.
themselves. That is cool. All right. Another thing that sets us apart is this idea of having multiple literacy focus in our unit. So literally, we develop reading and writing skills that apply to learning the science content. We have strong reading integration. We have trade books that are carefully selected for each unit to enhance the science content learning and students' reading skills, and it's integrated right into the activities. Also, we have writing integration, where writing within the content allows students to revise and revisit their thinking and writing throughout the lesson. We've embedded pre-writing strategies within the teacher guide. So again, I'm going to ask Barbara Missy, can you share your experiences with the literacy integrations in the units?
I know with us, we only got to the since we piloted this, we started in March, and we didn't get all the way through. We got to the water one. I can't read what it says. Something drink of water, and
a cool drink of water.
Yes. And I know we departmentalized at Stevens, and it was really great because I was able to show this and kind of meet with our English language arts teacher, and she could incorporate some of these activities in this book into her centers during her reading centers time. So it was great to be able to incorporate all of that and plan with her and work with her on something that we were doing in science. And that's the great thing about a lot of the lessons, is just being able to have those standards in the teacher's guide, and being able to meet with the ELA teachers, or I'm teaching math now too. So the math standards that are incorporated into it, to see those and work with those teachers.
Yeah, and for me, I didn't work with the ELE teacher, but I knew the standards. So it was really nice that I was able to bring in and revisit skills that the kids had worked on in ELA, because we're departmentalized as well in fourth grade. And it's funny because this year we're doing the same thing. And the beginning of the year, the kids are like, we did this in math. And the next day we did the same, we talked about the same thing in ELA. So it's really bringing in for the kids to know that you need your literacy skills, you need your math standards, you do it, it's all integrated. And it's nice that the kids are hearing it. And the books are amazing. We got to 2 of them, the eyes. And the kids were like enthralled. They wanted to keep going with the books. They wanted to keep reading. They were sharing with each other. And it's just a really amazing way of seeing the kids interact with literature.
Yeah. Thank you for that. We also have embedded assessments. So what's interesting is that we have at the end of every single lesson, we point out within the lesson what counts as a formative or summative assessment. And it's so important to have those formative assessments throughout the unit for teachers to have checkpoints. And it's all in the students oftentimes already have a model or a prompt that they could do right within the student journal. So you don't have to create yet, another assignment for them. And the summative assessments, you're told, what projects count as summatives or a response to text, or we have an end of unit assessment as well. So these different forms of assessment, whether you're using it for formative or summative purposes.
All right, so in that scenario, I want you to think about why was it so difficult for him to see when he first went inside. Now I want you, now that you have does everybody have time to think and everybody have an idea of why? Okay, I want you to turn and tell a shoulder, or if you have more than a shoulder, tell a shoulder and a face partner. Why do you think it was so difficult for him to see when he first went inside? What do you all think? Stella, are you pointing fingers? Has this ever happened to you? Have you ever gone from outside to inside? Or have you ever gone into a place where you had some difficulty seeing at first?
Yes.
Why do you think that happened?
Wait, my eyes actually have been doing that a lot recently. Like I'll go into a dark room about to take a nap or go to sleep. And
I like how you mentioned you were walking into a dark room.
Yeah.
Okay.
And my eyes kind of have to warm up so I can actually see. When I first walk in the room, I can't see anything.
Okay. Can you tell me more about what you mean when you say your eyes warm up?
Kind of more focused. Yeah.
What'd you say, Jaden?
They get more adjusted to the focused.
Okay, so they need a moment to focus. Okay.
Well, my eyes do.
Okay. All right. Did you all say something similar?
Yeah.
Do you want to add on to anything they said? That's okay.
Oh, and sometimes when I close my eyes for a long time and then open them up, it is very blurry. Very, very blurry.
What do you mean by blurry? Can you still see things, or what do you mean?
No, it's just I can't really see things.
And that was a teacher in our pilot program. Okay, and so another thing we offer is professional learning, where we are able to provide professional learning developed to build teacher confidence and help students achieve the targeted student outcomes. We provide specific unit training at the beginning, and then for follow-up, we have other professional learning opportunities such as classroom coaching, and we have online classes and in-person training. We have workshops for assessment, for instance, and technology integrations. So we have a little something for everyone, and we definitely, that's our goal, is to make sure we have that ongoing professional learning that's so important for NGSS. So we're down to sort of the tail end of our webinar today. We have a couple more questions for Missy and Barbara, and we'll also entertain any questions that you all have. So one of the questions we talked about earlier was, how well does this program with the varied student populations in your classroom?
I can give a specific example. Last year with I had a student who was had a 504 plan. He was new to our school, and he had moved basically from a neighboring school. The parents had chose to bring him here because he just wasn't thriving at his other school. And he was one of my best discussers. I don't know if that's the correct word, but just him, he just really thrived in this environment of teaching science, where he really would ask some really good questions to bring discussion. He would just the way he discussed with each other, with other students, that you wouldn't know, like the talks that I'd had with mom or whatever, that he was almost like, she was like, he's a different child. And just this environment where they feel safe to communicate and discuss with each other, with the different, especially with when we had that discussion about the oxygen level in the atmosphere, just the asking good questions, to where in a regular class like that wasn't done this way, he wouldn't have thrived as well. So especially with our special ed students who on paper don't succeed as well as they could, this discussion based learning is really beneficial for them.
I agree with Missy. And what I truly find as a benefit, our population is really, they really lack a lot of background knowledge. So we don't have a lot of background knowledge that the kids can kind of dip into and use to help them. But the activities themselves lend themselves to helping kids develop some of those connections. And especially for like students that English is their second language, there's a lot of hands-on that they're able to understand what's going on, even if they're struggling to communicate it. And slowly it comes out. So it gives the kids a lot of just hands-on, and it helps them broaden, and they're able to make connections, because a lot of the activities are they're very simple and you wouldn't necessarily think to do them, but they're able to make connections. Like that box for me earlier, some of my kids wanted to go home and do it at home. And they're like, well, I have a window in my bathroom. Like, well, find a closet, and they wanted to go home and try it. And that might not be something they wouldn't necessarily do if we hadn't done the activities.
Yeah, and it almost like they wanted that knowledge once they started looking at the lessons and learning all those things. They wanted to, like, my student went back and figured out that this man who developed a machine to clean up the ocean had revised it, and it got even better. And she came back with that knowledge, and the fact that they were going outside of the classroom to learn more about those things was just amazing to me.
Yeah. And the kids they're upset when class is over. Like, I remember being in high school and class science is over. All right, book closed, I'm out the door. And whereas the kids now, they kind of like, no, we're switching out. I'll see you tomorrow, out. I mean, they want to be here. They want to be in class. They want to see what's next.
Okay, wow. So I feel like you've covered a whole lot. One last question. What teacher resources did you find most helpful?
Ironically, Missy and I got together the other day looking over the teacher resources, and I don't know if you can see this, but we got a long list of the things that we really, really, really liked about the Serial City resources. I mean, the slide decks were great. I mean, they were able to keep me, because I get distracted, I get off on a tangent. They were able to keep me going, keeping the class pace moving. And the videos, Missy, I think, used the videos more than I did, but the videos were great.
I liked it because as a teacher, especially when you teach multiple classes, I always feel bad for that first class, because I'm always messing something up. I'm always not doing something right. And I always feel like I need to go back and reteach that my first period class, what I did, because by third or fourth period, I was so much better. And with those videos really helped out to where I could watch them over and over again. And just to make sure I was doing things when we did the activity together. Or if you know how time is our worst enemy in teaching. Sometimes you just don't have enough time to get that. So I was like, okay, let's watch this really quick. So those were great. I did love the videos.
Yeah. Another thing that I enjoyed was the teacher tips and the highlighted questions, because a lot of times I'm in the moment and I kind of forget everything on the sides. And it was nice because I highlighted some of the stuff. I'm like, yeah, oh, absolutely. I need to bring these in. I need to make sure the kids, you know, try to lead them to asking questions, trying to get them to a certain point. So the teacher tips, the questions that were highlighted, it was really helpful for me to just give it a little more. It's not just the lesson, it's not just the unit, but it was just those little tips kind of just bumped it up a notch.
Even the fact that it's in a binder and not in like a spiral or something, to where you can take those pages out and hold on to them too. And so you have all that list of different things. I like how there are some things to where, oh, a student might say this, here's how you can respond in this way.
And so if you're interested in getting more information, you know, receiving samples of what some of the things you've seen today, please feel free to send us a message through the chat or complete the contact form through the QR code here. And so, yeah, we are happy to come to your district. We can Zoom and, you know, schedule a meeting with your curriculum team, or, you know, any combination. We are available. Hey, and we're going to be at, all of us, that's Missy, Barbara, myself, Michelle, we're all going to be at the KSTA annual conference.
And Andrea's going to be there.
And Andrea, and are we in Lexington?
We're in Louisville this year.
Louisville, sorry,
Yes.
Louisville. Okay, so November 3rd and 4th, and we'll be there with a booth, and we're doing presentations. And we're going to share more about our pilot in Kentucky. So yeah, we're excited about that. All right. Anybody else have any questions? I really appreciate you all taking the time to check out our program and, you know, joining us, Missy, Barbara, and I in our discussion today. So yeah, thank you so much.